The hospital was bustling with people as Hu Ruanli, wearing a mask, walked out of the reproductive health department with weakened legs. Next to it was the gynecology department, and ahead was the maternity clinic. She looked enviously at a pregnant woman beside her, thinking, when can I have a second child? It seems like I can't even keep my marriage. Wang Shugong, knowing that Hu Ruanli took a day off to go to the hospital, didn't utter a single word of greeting. He was as indifferent as ice. Not wanting to argue with him, she blamed her own uncooperative stomach. With a dry and parched mouth, Hu Ruanli went to a small shop next to the hospital and ordered a bowl of tang yuan. While eating, she called Wang Shugong. Darling, are you back home? Take out the catfish from the freezer, I'll braise it and make some rice. Let's have tomato and egg soup too. Oh? You don't know which one is the catfish? In that case, take out the lamb chops, and I'll make a lamb hot pot. In the small bag in the freezer, I've packed everything, and I wrote on the outside of the bag. Take a look, yes, good. Suppressing the anger in her heart, Hu Ruanli made every effort to show a pleasant mood, as if nothing had happened. Little did she know, Wang Shugong had no intention of cooperating with her. Lazily, he said, I don't know which one is the lamb chop, tell me when you come back. Me. A wave of disappointment erupted. Hu Ruanli put a tang yuan in her mouth, silently hung up the phone. After finishing the tang yuan, she put on her coat and went out, preparing to pick up her daughter Duo. Suddenly, someone tentatively called, Hu Ruanli. She subconsciously turned around. In the bustling crowd, Su Tai was staring at her in a daze. He still looked as robust as he did many years ago, his eyes wide like copper bells. He probably didn't expect to meet her at this moment. Hu Ruanli nodded anxiously and turned to leave. She and Su Tai had been in love since their sophomore year, sweet for more than 5 years. In the end, he went abroad. To put it bluntly, Su Tai's mother strongly opposed him marrying Hu Ruanli, even though she was already pregnant. To overcome the predicament, Hu Ruanli married Wang Shugong, but during the same period, she maintained an ambiguous relationship with Su Tai. Su Tai stepped forward and stopped her, whispering, I finally found you, Ruanli. I'm sorry, I've always wanted to tell you, I'm sorry. Now I'm facing karma. My dad's factory closed down, we have no money, and I returned from abroad early, still unmarried. Don't say it. We ended a long time ago. Tears welled up in Hu Ruanli's eyes as she quickened her pace forward. There was a taxi by the roadside, and the driver waved to her, signaling her to hurry. Although Hu Ruanli concealed it in every possible way, her daughter Duo inherited Su Tai's large eyes and looked nothing like Wang Shugong, who was small and slim. The cruel truth was as obvious as lice on a bald head. Wang Shugong wasn't foolish, he urged Hu Ruanli to undergo tests. After so many years of marriage with no sign of pregnancy, was she unwilling to bear children for his Wang family? Hu Ruanli tried various remedies, both traditional Chinese and Western medicine, but there was still no sign of pregnancy. She once advised Wang Shugong to get checked as well, but to her surprise, he got angry, accusing her of throwing dirty water and covering up his own sordid deeds. In this long marriage, Hu Ruanli felt guilty. She played the roles of cook, cleaner, and handywoman at home. Even when the toilet broke, it was her who arranged for repairs. Meanwhile, Wang Shugong enjoyed a comfortable life without a care in the world, aging like a teenager. In his early 40s, he had no big belly, thick hair, and a lively spirit. Hurriedly, Hu Ruanli returned home, took out the catfish from the refrigerator to thaw, and prepared a cold mixed dish of 3 shredded ingredients. She cooked rice, and the tomato and egg soup was underway. Accustomed to household chores, she worked swiftly and efficiently, completing everything in no time. Seems like it's hopeless again. Wang Shugong coldly remarked from behind. Why not get checked? The doctor said it's likely your issue, sighed Hu Ruanli. Nonsense. Bullshit. I think he just wants to scam money. Clearly, it's you with a problem, a damaged uterus. Wang Shugong spewed filth, defaming Hu Ruanli without a care. He knew she wouldn't resist, nor could she divorce him. Hu Ruanli glared back at Wang Shugong, then headed straight to the bathroom. Living too passively, she sat on the toilet, and tears flowed silently. Divorce had crossed her mind. With 2 properties currently, one rented out and the other occupied by the family of 3, Wang Shugong had a stable job with a decent income. Besides his sharp tongue, he didn't seem too bad. But isn't the essence of marriage about happiness? Otherwise, it's better to live alone. If she divorced, Hu Ruanli's salary would barely be enough to support her child. However, in times of financial strain, Duo's piano lessons might have to be discontinued. She didn't want her daughter to grow up in a single-parent household. Endure it. On the left side of Hu Ruanli's chest, there was a soybean-sized lump, painless and itchy. She accidentally touched it during a shower, having a bad premonition. Today, she had a breast ultrasound, which revealed a breast nodule, requiring careful observation to prevent cancer. A mediocre middle-aged woman, who mistakenly fell in love with the wrong man in her youth, seemed destined never to turn her life around. The next day, Wang Shugong had an early morning meeting at work and left for the office. After finishing work at noon, Hu Ruanli went to her mother-in-law's house to help prepare a lamb hot pot. She mentioned that her younger sister-in-law's family would be coming for dinner. Polite as ever, her mother-in-law said, "Ruanli, thank you for your hard work. Your cooking skills are excellent." Haha. Hu Ruanli smiled faintly and replied, "It's nothing. Just making a meal for my own family." Wang Shugong has weak sperm, and the doctor advised him to eat more leeks and drink lamb soup to improve. In reality, the doctor's words had a conditional "if" at the beginning. Hu Ruanli swallowed it down, deliberately testing her mother-in-law. Sure enough, a hint of panic flashed in her mother-in-law's eyes, followed by a calm smile. "Oh, you got it checked? Different doctors have different opinions. Consider trying in vitro fertilization. You're still young." A thunderous noise echoed in Hu Ruanli's ears. From her mother-in-law's gaze, she confirmed that Wang Shugong had known early on about his poor sperm quality. No, it wasn't just him, her in-laws knew, keeping it a secret from Hu Ruanli. Making her bear the burden of infertility, Wang Shugong was too ruthless. Seeing Hu Ruanli struggling and feeling the immense psychological pressure, he didn't bother to get a checkup or reveal the truth. Hu Ruanli, maintaining a calm exterior, was on the verge of exploding inside. In the afternoon, after finishing work, she wandered alone on the street when an unfamiliar number called. Pressing the answer button, it was Su Tai. Knowing his persistent intentions, she bluntly said, "Give up on that thought. I've already aborted the child. You shameless person, back then, you looked down on me for my conditions, thinking I wasn't worthy of marrying into your family. Why didn't you say it earlier? Stay away from me." Su Tai softly said, "Scold me if it makes you feel better. I willingly accept it. Rainy days, I think of you. On your birthday, I remember you too. I can't face you, and all these years, I faced retribution. You should be happy. Today marks 21 years since we met. Can we have a meal together, Lily? I miss you." His voice carried a hoarseness, a faint sadness, and countless imprints of time. At a moment when Hu Ruanli's emotions were mixed, feeling lonely and cold, she couldn't help but soften her heart and said, "Okay." At an outdoor private restaurant, Su Tai ordered a table full of dishes that Hu Ruanli loved: crystal jelly, braised carp, sweet rice balls, and pork belly with taro. She had no appetite, just lightly tasting each dish. Su Tai raised his wine glass and said, "Have a drink, okay?" One glass followed another, and the words that Hu Ruanli had been holding inside burst out. She poured out the frustration and grievances of her years with Wang Shugong, feeling stifled and depressed. As she spoke, tears welled up, and she choked. "You ruined me, Su Tai, do you know? I no longer believe in love, in men. I hate you." Suddenly, Su Tai hugged her tightly and fiercely kissed her. Despite her protests and attempts to push him away, he didn't resist. The relentless kisses continued until both of them lay on the recliners in the private room. Afterward, Hu Ruanli felt genuine remorse. She had actually cheated with Su Tai, her ex-boyfriend. For many years, in their sexual life, Wang Shugong only cared about his own pleasure. He would either finish and fall asleep or, without even taking a shower, directly embrace her with his grunting desires. She occasionally felt something. He had already finished the battle. Most of the time, she was merely fulfilling her duty, cooperating. A middle-aged woman's moral code told Hu Ruanli that Wang Shugong was her husband, and she had to cooperate. Intimacy was essential. There were no kisses, no hugs, no foreplay, just that. Wang Shugong, on the other hand, believed that allowing her to be touched was already giving her face. Su Tai was someone Hu Ruanli had deeply loved in her youth. He knew what kind of kisses she liked, what kind of embraces she preferred. He understood her. Hu Ruanli was in turmoil, crying as she put on her clothes. Sobbing, she said, "We shouldn't meet again. Go away." Being with you only reminds me of the past, and it's painful, you know? I may not be living well, but I don't need your pity. In the night, she hailed a taxi and headed home. Did Duo have dinner? Did she finish her homework? The clothes on the balcony needed to be collected. When Hu Ruanli returned home, Wang Shugong came out from the kitchen with a fruit platter, smiling and saying, "Wife, you're back." With just one glance, Hu Ruanli knew that her mother-in-law must have told him about the secret of his infertility. Wang Shugong's sperm was definitely not a simple case of lack of vitality or any other problem, otherwise, he would have suggested in vitro fertilization long ago. The situation must be worse than she imagined. In her heart, she sneered. In their many years of marriage, without Wang Shugong saying much, Hu Ruanli was certain that he was now becoming humble, with actions full of a pleasing intent. Wang Shugong knew that Duo's parentage was questionable, but he absolutely didn't want to expose this delicate matter. However, feeling uneasy inside, he was torn. So, he played the role of a busybody, treating Hu Ruanli like a housekeeper. If he divorced Hu Ruanli, Wang Shugong, a man with infertility issues, would face an even more embarrassing situation. He could only pick up other single middle-aged women, help them raise children, a fact that was blatantly evident. Did he think he could keep this secret from Hu Ruanli forever? What a fool. Hu Ruanli washed her hands, picked up an apple, and began to eat. Wang Shugong was helping Duo with her homework. At first glance, it looked like a happy family of three, but in reality, it was full of deception and intrigue. In the evening, after Duo went to sleep, Wang Shugong softly said, you know everything now, right? Hu Ruanli remained silent, casually applying hand cream. I'm sorry. I feel very inferior and weak, Wang Shugong said slowly, one word at a time. I've been struggling, and it's painful inside. Occasionally, my emotions get a bit better. I didn't dare tell you, afraid you'd look down on me. I also resented that you once had a relationship with Su Tai. But, in the big picture, I'm not a bad person. I give you my salary, and I fulfill my responsibilities and obligations, don't I? Hu Ruanli lay down and closed her eyes. Wang Shugong was right. He had fulfilled his husband's duties. Besides love, tenderness, understanding, and insight, he had provided everything. But in this mundane world, how many people truly understand and appreciate each other? How many can receive wholehearted love? Hu Ruanli knew that she had finally turned the tide. Light was appearing in her life. Whether she divorced or not, she now held the initiative. As for Su Tai, she didn't regret making love to him. This intimate encounter proved that Hu Ruanli wasn't emotionless, she could experience pleasure, tremble at a man's affection, and she was also a person. For a middle-aged woman who had experienced the ups and downs of life, whether to divorce or not was irrelevant. Self-awakening, that was what truly mattered.